The time has finally come for a long-awaited Q&A marking the revival of the Epic War franchise, which, if you haven't heard before, I've bought the rights to. And the immediate question that I'm sure all of you guys have had is what is going to happen to the franchise? And that is what we're going to talk about in this video. The first question that many of you are wondering about is, will Epic Wars Saga get updated? And I am happy to say that the answer is yes, I have full intentions of updating Epic Wars Saga. But there are certain complicating factors that make the task of updating this game a lot trickier than it otherwise would be. And perhaps the biggest one of these factors is the death of Flash. Now that it is no longer supported by browsers, the future of a Flash game is severely constrained. And in fact, I'm not even sure how possible it is for me to roll out an update for the game in its current state, considering that I have not yet gotten the required technology for it to work. So, what would I have to do about that? Once again, not hard to guess, but my goal is to migrate Epic Wars Saga to a different engine. That will of course make the game a lot more maintainable, and we will be able to roll out updates as well as distribute the game a lot more freely. And in addition to Epic Wars Saga, I also plan to port the mainline series, Epic Wars 1 through 5. So what, as some of you ask, am I going to make the Epic War games in from now on? This is not completely set in stone, but the engine that I've been experimenting with so far, that shows promising results, is Godot. It is completely free, lightweight, and so far just a pleasure to work with. And it has a far wider reach than Flash. So if you were wondering whether the Epic War games would make it to Steam, that is absolutely my goal for both the numbered titles and Epic Wars Saga. As for whether they will come out on mobile, the answer in theory is also yes. Steam will have higher priority, but as long as it proves possible, I will be happy to bring the games to mobile platforms, especially Epic Wars Saga, which already has that free-to-play mobile feeling. There are other potential distribution platforms, like Kongregate, which I'm not fundamentally opposed to bringing Epic Wars Saga back to, but at this point in time it's probably not relevant enough to prioritize it over Steam or mobile. Could we see an Epic War Definitive Edition including Epic Wars 1 through 5 released on Steam? That seems eerily similar to the plans that I have in mind. So, if games in the franchise end up getting a re-release on a platform such as Steam, what would the goal for the re-releases be? The number one goal for relaunching the games on Steam and such would definitely be to grow our player base and help old fans of the series find us, as I'm sure there are a lot of people who, like us, have played the Epic War games back when they were at the peak of their relevance and would love to see them active again. But I would also aim to improve the games to give us all a better experience, and hopefully the sales will help fund the future of the franchise. So yes, my goal is to port Epic Wars Saga and Epic Wars 1 through 5 away from Flash. And I need you to understand right now that that is not going to be a quick or easy task, because it will effectively consist of rewriting all the games from scratch, which is in and of itself a daunting task, and I have a full-time job, so I can't dedicate too much time to it. On the upside, I code for a living, so I will be able to handle a lot of the process myself. But I will likely need help, particularly with Epic Wars Saga as the bigger game of the series, so I've reached out to some people who might help, and hopefully this will all be doable in the end. And with this in mind, someone brings up a good question: will this game get a rework or stay the same? In other words, how different is it going to be when it's relaunched outside of Flash? I don't have a detailed answer to that right now, but I can assure you there are going to be differences. It's not going to be completely the same game, it will get balance changes in the process, some of its features might change, and we will probably have another set of betas which you guys will be able to participate in before the new incarnation of the game is ready for the public eye. And once that happens, further minor updates and balance changes will be easy in comparison. Next, I have some unfortunate things to get out of the way. As it turns out, the assets to Epic Wars 6 have been lost to time and no one really has them anymore. All we have are these sprite sheets, which would take ages to animate again, and it won't even be worth it because of how low resolution they are. So yes, unfortunately Epic Wars 6 is not coming back. I am probably more disappointed about that than most of you guys, because Epic Wars 6 was not what you would call a good game, and I think I have a good idea why, which is why the challenge of going back to try to make the game good would have been fun for me, but this way I'll get to dedicate more time to the other games of the series which are actually good. Another game I was asked about is Epic War Legends, Epic War Legends was not part of our deal, and the rights to it still belong to ArtLogic Games. The reasoning behind this is simple. I believe it was a pretty sizable MMO game, so trying to buy it too would have probably disproportionately raised the price in a way that wasn't necessarily worth it, because Epic War Legends has completely different gameplay from the signature Epic War style that makes these games so unique and remarkable. From what I understand, it was one of those turn-based fighting games of a genre I don't exactly remember the name of, with fan service for the Epic War world. None of that is irreplaceable. If everything goes well for the series, it will be possible to have other spin-offs in different genres, which would all be in the same world, but as I already mentioned, I think it's better to focus on the main games at the moment. Epic War Legends may have been a good game, I don't know, I've never really played it, but it was not what made Epic War such a renowned series. So I do not have the rights to Epic War Legends, or Epic Quest, or any other games by ArtLogic Games. I am no more involved with them now than I ever was before. Legendary Saga deserves a separate mention. I've actually never seen this game before, but apparently it is a remake of Epic War Saga on mobile, and I don't actually know what specific rights I have to it. That would depend on what the deal was between ArtLogic Games and this publisher, but the remake doesn't seem to work anymore, so there might not be a need to find out. So the games I have the rights to are Epic Wars 1 through 5 and technically 6, Epic War Saga, and the overarching franchise as a whole. What are your plans on getting a development team together for the Epic War franchise, like artists and possibly writers? Good question. The art style of these games is specific enough that finding a new artist or artists to work on it is unlikely to be easy. So it may take a while to find an artist who is both good enough and affordable enough, and also draws in an art style that would fit the games. For a while this is going to be Epic War Saga's update bottleneck, since most new units, heroes, spells and so forth would require artwork. Rudy seems to have had a team of artists at ArtLogic Games, and the problem was that the game wasn't getting enough money to fund full-time work. For me, the problem is the opposite. It is people whom we are missing right now. And as for writers, this is lower priority, because we are unlikely to need a dedicated writer in the foreseeable future. If we're talking about making new missions for Epic War Saga, I mean, I've dabbled in writing myself, and we might have other people on the team who can write, even if it's not their main job. So we're definitely going to be able to handle small-scale writing tasks like that. And it may take a while for writing to become a major part of producing new content for the franchise. And on that note, is there ever going to be a new Epic War game? I mean, Epic War 7 does have a nice ring to it. Oh, it does, doesn't it? I might be real with you. There is a large part of me that wants to just skip all of that previous stuff and get straight to making a new Epic War game. But if I were to make one, it would not be a half-hearted attempt. I would have high standards for the game, and it would almost definitely need a higher art budget than what I can afford at the moment. I would love to be able to make an Epic War game, and I will definitely try to make that a reality, but I have no idea when, if ever, that might happen, which is why I'm careful in answering this question at the moment. But let's suppose, for the sake of it, that an Epic War 7 or a new Epic War game were to exist. We then have a couple questions about that fortunate scenario. Will there be a possibility that if there is a new game, it is subtitled in other languages? So, potentially, but this is a tricky situation because there are different parts of a game that it might make sense to translate, including things like the UI and the names of units and actions and the tutorial, as well as the game's story. The first, purely informational aspects of the game probably wouldn't cost too much to translate. But that being said, it's a question of how much it even helps. I mean, back when I didn't know English very well, it was never a problem for me that the unit names weren't in Russian. I could still distinguish between the units without issues. And most Epic War games are simple enough for walls of tutorial text to not only be unnecessary, but also to interfere with the player's intuitive understanding of the game. I mean, we know from experience that not many people actually read those. And as for the story, translating it might improve the user's experience the most. But unfortunately, translators generally charge on the basis of word count. So, if we were to ever be making a new Epic War game, we would have that hanging over ourselves. Ooh, we can't make the story too detailed, because then it would cost more to put into the game, and not because of writing it, but because of translating it. So it's a double-edged sword in the way that it would basically encourage me to put less effort into the story than I otherwise would, and to effectively make a worse game. So if we found a good deal, then maybe, but unfortunately I cannot promise anything as far as translations go. I mean, I'm not even promising a new game to begin with, but you know what I mean. I like the art style of the old games. The sprites have so much energy and creativity. Clearly the developers took inspiration from many licenses like Lord of the Rings and Monster Hunter, along with their unique stuff. If you make a game, will it retain the style? I absolutely agree that the unique art style of the games is one of the things that sets them apart in a positive way. It's not pixel art, it's drawn art that has basically been scaled down and pixelated to fit the resolution of the game and decrease file size. And people have correctly pointed out that in many Epic War games, units have distinct personality that makes us feel like there is a lot more to them than simply being reskins of each other. This adds to the complication of finding new artists to work on the franchise, but provided that is possible, I would absolutely like to keep the uniqueness and distinguishing features of the art style. When I envision a perfect Epic War game, it's not quite in the same art style as any of the existing entries. It's like many of the games get certain things really right about their art style and others ever so slightly off. For example, Epic War 2 looks badass, but its units are scaled down to a fault, whereas Epic Wars 3 and 4 have a bleak color scheme. There is a lot that goes into determining what would work, but as far as the importance of art in Epic War games, you hit the nail on the head. I loved the system where there were upgrade bubbles and you get points to put into new troops. I think it was in Epic War 3 or 4, I can't quite remember. I think you're talking about Epic War 4's upgrade system, which is apparently controversial, but I really like it as well. It keeps just enough of its practicality while providing a sense of exploration outside of battle. But can you do something like that into a new version of the game? You know, I have definitely considered it. And the only reason a potential new game might not use that system is if I think the system it uses instead is better or fits the particular game more. And I ain't giving away any of the more juicy details I have in mind. Will there be any level up system for troops or heroes in Epic War Saga or any future game? So I'm not sure what you mean by this because every Epic War game so far has had an upgrade system. In Epic War Saga it's mainly the points you get from level ups, and in the main series you can upgrade specific units individually. So there basically already is, and if a new game comes out, it will probably have one too. And next we have some questions about Epic War Saga. Will it get more content for newer players? Not sure what you mean by for newer players. I've explained the situation with Epic War Saga's updates in general, but are you thinking of content that would specifically appeal to newer players? Because as I understand it, the quests are the main content for newer players, and I do want to increase the appeal for them by making the game less grindy, but as far as new content is concerned, it might make the most sense to gear it towards veterans instead, people who've already played through the game and want more things to do. Will you be adding a way to reset accounts? Probably. Thanks for the suggestion. Although, if you played the game 5 years ago, shouldn't your data be wiped by now? The relaunch happened in 2018, so I'm not actually sure how you've managed to keep your account since then. Will there be any new character designs? That's all contingent on finding artists. If we do, then yeah. Can you make the game have better graphics? Wow, roasted. But the only effective way I see to do that is to rework all the units in a higher resolution, and even if we do find the artists, I can only imagine how much that's gonna cost. Will we see more crystal distribution and/or crystal pricing adjustments? Yeah. Don't have the details, but I can pretty much guarantee you that's going to happen. Are you planning to do changes in-game only or on Discord as well? Are you planning on making them both alive again? So again, not sure what you mean here. Is the server not alive now? Mainly, the server's activity is just going to reflect the game's activity, but I will make changes to it, and it will be the home server of the entire franchise, not just Epic War Saga. And as for making it alive, will you host any events to celebrate the franchise except the Q&A? I like this question. If only you knew how much experience I have with hosting Discord events. Not all of it very smooth experience, but yes, the Discord is absolutely going to have events. It will have more Q&As with time, and we can absolutely host things like creative competitions related to the franchise. Not yet though. Our main goal is reviving the games, and not only is it better for me to focus on the games right now instead of other things surrounding them, but hosting events just makes a lot more sense when the games themselves are there and thriving. What is your main motivation for buying the franchise? I've played the Epic War games since I was like 7 or 8, don't remember exactly, and they were among the games that managed to enamor me with their world, particularly Epic War 5. I didn't fully realize how much I cared about the franchise until I started really wanting to see YouTube videos of it. And over time, I sort of developed ideas for what Epic War should be in the future. And I've known for many years that I wanted to make a good game in this genre, but eventually it became easier to think of that future game as an Epic War game. And not only do I love the games due to nostalgia, but they have exactly the elements that for me make the genre interesting to begin with. So getting this franchise and making it the best it can be really made sense to me. And throughout my time being in the server, I got to really share the joy of discussing the games with a variety of people who had similar and different thoughts compared to me. So I couldn't believe my luck when I found out I had the chance to buy it so soon. And I couldn't be more excited to lead and experience the revival of the games with you. We have a long and exciting journey ahead of us, one that will hopefully lead to prosperity. And through the tedious porting process that lies ahead, I, and anyone else working on it, will find comfort and encouragement in that thought.